Welcome back, everyone, to the Mad Genius Thesis, where we kind of try to tease out the connection between creativity and mental illness.
Yeah. It's a question that's been around for centuries, right? Like, are these moments of like artistic genius, are they somehow linked to states of mind that society might say are like abnormal or even, mad?
Yeah, and today we're looking at Josef Pieper's Enthusiasm and Divine Madness. And he starts off with a quote from Plato that kind of, I don't know, is provocative.
It's a good one.
The greatest blessings come by way of mania, insofar as mania is heaven sent. So,
Oh,
yeah, so that's what we're dealing with today.
that's a big one. Yeah, and Piper is really kind of taking us through Plato's dialogue, the Phaedrus, which, is all about beauty and love and the nature of the psyche, and he's connecting these ancient ideas to our modern understanding of creativity and mental states.
Right. And so to really kind of get into that idea of divine madness, we have to go back to the streets of intellectual Athens. And Pieper gives us this really vivid picture of this world of, intellectual detachment and techniques for living and, well, a little bit of indulgence.
Yeah, it was a society grappling with contradictions for sure. That's this pursuit of rationality, but also this taste for excess.
Yeah.
And the sophists were right at the heart of it all.
Yeah.
Piper calls them masters of cultivated rationalizations.
Yeah, they were like the rock stars.
Yes.
To the young people.
Exactly. They were like the influencers of their day, right?
Yeah.
The young Athenians flocked to them because they saw them as cutting edge and like, this is the way to success. This is how you master the art of like getting ahead in life.
It's interesting. I mean, do you see that as like a parallel with social media today? And,
Oh, absolutely.
like the carefully crafted persona that's...
Yeah, the carefully curated, online persona that promises you the keys to the kingdom. Yeah, so very much a parallel, I think. And of course, just like today, there were those voices urging caution. Enter Socrates, who, as Piper points out, offered a very different perspective.
Yeah, he was less interested in worldly success and far more concerned with the pursuit of truth and like
Absolutely.
really understanding what it means to live a good and meaningful life.
Yeah. He saw right through the sophists' arguments, and he saw their emphasis on rhetoric as a distraction from these deeper questions of existence.
Yeah.
And, this clash of worldviews plays out beautifully in the Phaedrus in a discussion about love.
Right.
Which is fascinating. It starts with a speech written by Lysias, who was a prominent orator at the time. And Phaedrus is totally captivated by this speech. He loves it. He praises how clever and sophisticated it is.
Right. And it's basically saying that it's better for a young man to accept the advances from someone who isn't in love with him.
Right. Yeah. On the surface, that sounds a bit cold-hearted.
Yeah.
A little bit. A little bit. But I think what Lysias is really advocating for is a kind of desire and pleasure without the messy entanglements of love.
Right. It's kind of like a very transactional...
Yeah, it's a transactional view of relationships.
Yeah, avoid the drama.
Avoid the drama. Get what you want, no strings attached.
Yeah.
Yeah, very similar to like modern dating app philosophy.
Yeah.
But Socrates is having none of it.
Well, he doesn't immediately, jump down his throat or anything like that.
No.
He kind of plays along.
He plays along. He delivers a speech that echoes the same ideas,
Right.
but of course it's all an act.
Right.
It's Socrates, being ironic, using wit to highlight the dangers of prioritizing style over substance and sacrificing genuine connection for superficial pleasure.
Right. And then he completely shifts gears.
He does.
And delivers this powerful message about...
Yeah, he recants the previous speech and he delivers this incredible, passionate message about the importance of genuine noble love between free men.
Right. And that's where Pieper's exploration of divine madness kind of comes in.
Yes, exactly. Because Socrates introduces this concept of mania as a pathway to truth and to profound experiences.
Like the prophets and oracles, the ones who were kind of divinely inspired.
Exactly.
Like the Sibyl.
Yes. He points to figures like that as examples of how surrendering to something beyond reason can unlock profound knowledge. And it's so interesting because we still talk about, moments of creative breakthrough when an artist or a scientist seems to just tap into something.
Right. That bolt from the blue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're channeling something.
Right. But that's just one kind of divine madness, right?
Exactly. It's just one flavor. There's also cathartic mania, which is the idea that madness can be a step towards healing and purification.
Like the idea of facing our demons, right?
Yeah.
And having to kind of walk through fire.
Exactly. And Piper draws a parallel to modern psychology, how confronting our deepest fears and traumas can be vital for healing. And this idea of cathartic mania connects to creativity as well. Think of how many great works of art have emerged from intense personal struggle.
right? It's almost like the creative process itself is cathartic.
Exactly, yeah.
So we have prophetic mania, cathartic mania. What else is there?
Well, there's also poetic mania, which is the idea that true poetry springs from divine inspiration.
So it's that age-old debate of, are artists just skilled or are they touched by something?
Exactly.
But
Are they divinely inspired?
Yeah.
Is it nature, nurture, or something else?
And it's so interesting because even in today's, very scientific age, I feel like we still kind of have this idea that maybe...
I think so, too. There's a bit of a mystery there that we're drawn to.
Right.
And Pieper argues that true poetry, the kind that moves us across time and space, might come from a place beyond the conscious mind.
Okay, so we have these three different types of divine madness. The prophetic, the cathartic, and the poetic.
Yeah.
But how does this tie back to love?
Right. Well, remember, Socrates was arguing that love in its purest form is also a type of divine madness.
Because love has that power to connect us to something larger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Pieper connects this back to the nature of the soul itself. He talks about Plato's idea of the soul's preexistence and its journey through the cosmos. And he suggests that we're not just physical beings, but spiritual beings connected to something eternal.
So it's not just about the afterlife, but about this connection to something that transcends the material world.
Exactly. Something we might get glimpses of in moments of intense love or creativity.
And he talks about encountering beauty as this kind of a catalyst.
Yes. Whether it's in another person or a work of art or nature itself, beauty can trigger powerful emotions, this longing for something beyond the physical realm.
It's like beauty awakens something within us, right?
Exactly. This kind of remembrance of a perfect divine beauty.
So you're saying that love can actually help us remember who we truly are and our connection to that divine source.
That's the idea. And Pieper even connects love to philosophy. He argues that both involve a passionate pursuit of truth and a desire to transcend our limitations.
So the lover and the philosopher are both driven by this yearning for something more.
Exactly. They're both trying to break free from the mundane to catch a glimpse of something greater, something that resonates deep within their being.
And so we have these four types of divine madness, the prophetic, the cathartic, the poetic, and the erotic.
Oh.
And they all point to this idea that there's a connection between moments of intense experience, creative breakthroughs, profound insights, and these states of being that we might consider mad.
Right. It makes you wonder, are those moments of true brilliance, of deep love, of spiritual insight, do they require us to step outside the boundaries of what we normally consider normal?
It's an exciting question and a little bit unsettling, but it brings us to the heart of our exploration. Is there really a link between extraordinary creativity and what society might call madness?
Yeah. It's a question that's fueled so many debates and inspired amazing works of art and probably caused a few headaches along the way.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it so fascinating, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about what it means to be human.
Right, exactly.
And Pieper, he really gets into the nuance of this.
Yeah.
He doesn't shy away from it at all.
Yeah. He acknowledges that the word mania itself, it carries a lot of baggage, especially today. When we understand mental illness in a much more, complex way.
Right. So how does he kind of reconcile this ancient idea of divine madness with our modern understanding of mental health?
Well, it's really important to remember that he's not saying that all forms of mental illness are creative or that all creative people are mentally ill. He's not making those kinds of generalizations.
So we're not romanticizing mental illness.
No, not at all. He's really drawing a distinction between clinical mental illness and the kind of mania that he's talking about, which is more about this heightened state of awareness, this intensity that can be a source of creative energy, but also potentially, instability.
So it's more about recognizing that the human mind is really complex.
Absolutely.
Capable of amazing things, but also,
Right. It can go to some dark places, but also some really brilliant places.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to think about how those two things might be connected in some way.
Right. And he seems to be really interested in those states of being that even though they might be considered outside the norm, they can lead to, greater insight or creative expression.
Exactly. He's interested in how our limitations, or what we might call our madness, could actually be a strength,
right?
A source of creativity. He wants us to look beyond just the labels and see the whole spectrum of human experience.
So it's almost like he's saying, don't be afraid of madness. Don't stigmatize it.
Yeah. See it as something that could enrich your life and your understanding of the world.
Right. And I feel like that aligns with a lot of the conversations happening today about mental health and
Oh, absolutely. There's a growing movement to destigmatize mental illness and recognize that people with those experiences have unique contributions to make.
It's about recognizing the value of neurodiversity.
Exactly. Different ways of thinking, different ways of experiencing the world can lead to breakthroughs in all kinds of fields.
So let's go back to the Phaedrus for a second. So Socrates introduces this idea of divine madness. How does he specifically connect that to love?
Well, he argues that love, when it's experienced in its truest form, can be a type of mania. It's not just physical, it's deeper. It's a yearning for something more.
Right, and Pieper really goes deep into this idea. He talks about this ecstatic experience that transports us and awakens a longing for something we might have glimpsed in a previous existence.
Right.
This connection to perfect beauty and truth.
He uses that metaphor of the soul as a winged charioteer trying to ascend to heaven but constantly being pulled back down to earth
Oh, wow.
by, those earthly desires.
It's like we're all trying to return home, but we get distracted.
Exactly.
Get caught up in the shadows.
Right, and love can help us remember that home.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's not just any kind of love. It's not about possession or just gratification. It's about appreciating the other person's soul, their essence.
So this kind of love inspires us to be better.
Yes. It pushes us to strive for something greater than ourselves.
But is this kind of love actually possible? That's the big question, right? I think Pieper would say it's not easy. It takes self-awareness and intentionality, a willingness to be vulnerable and surrender to something beyond our control.
So we have to let go of our ego.
Yes, we have to step outside our comfort zones and risk heartbreak.
And embrace that divine madness.
Exactly, because it's in those moments when we're out of our minds, when we're swept away by passion and wonder, that we can experience the truly transformative power of love.
We have to lose ourselves to find ourselves.
Beautifully said, yes. Embrace the unknown and allow yourself to be changed.
So we've talked about divine madness in prophecy, catharsis, poetry, and love. But does Pieper give us any practical advice on how to cultivate this in our own lives? Like a roadmap to embracing that divine spark?
Well, he doesn't give a step-by-step guide, but he does offer some insights.
Yeah.
He emphasizes being open to experience,
Okay.
stepping outside our comfort zones.
Saying yes to new opportunities.
Exactly. Even if they scare us a little bit, it's about pushing beyond our limits and seeing what's on the other side of fear.
And being willing to be wrong.
Yes. And to make mistakes and to learn and grow from those experiences.
So embracing the messiness of life.
Absolutely, because it's often in those moments of uncertainty that we're most open to inspiration and growth. When we let go of control, that's when the magic happens.
And I imagine having a sense of wonder is important too.
Oh, absolutely. Pieper talks about how divine madness is connected to that childlike sense of awe and curiosity. Seeing the world as if for the first time.
So it's about rediscovering the magic in the everyday.
Yes. Cultivating that beginner's mind, being open and seeing the extraordinary in the ordinary. And it's also about questioning our assumptions, challenging the status quo.
So always be learning.
Exactly. Be a lifelong learner. Be willing to challenge your own beliefs and consider different perspectives.
It's about having intellectual humility.
Yes, exactly. And I think another key element is cultivating a connection to something greater than ourselves, whether it's through spirituality, nature, art, or human connection. Finding something that gives you a sense of purpose and belonging.
So finding that anchor that helps us through life.
Yes. Pieper suggests that divine madness often comes with a sense of transcendence, feeling connected to something bigger than ourselves.
Like we're all connected by this invisible web.
Precisely. And when we tap into that, we're more likely to experience those moments of inspiration, of insight, of divine madness that can enrich our lives and the lives of others.
So we're not isolated individuals.
No, we're part of something larger. And when we embrace that, we open ourselves up to a whole new level of creativity, love, and understanding.
Okay, so Pieper says we should be open to experience, embrace the unknown, cultivate a sense of wonder, and connect to something greater than ourselves.
Yeah.
Anything else?
He also talks about solitude and reflection, those quiet moments away from the noise and distractions.
So carving out time for ourselves.
Yes, for introspection and contemplation. Creating space for stillness in our busy lives to just be and listen to our inner voice.
It's like creating a sanctuary for our souls.
Exactly. Giving ourselves space to connect with our inner wisdom. And in today's world, that can be a radical act of self-care. And gratitude. Oh yes, gratitude is so important. Being able to appreciate the good things in our lives, even when things are tough.
Focusing on what we have instead of what we lack.
Exactly. Finding those glimmers of light in the darkness.
Celebrating those small moments.
Yes, Pieper suggests that divine madness often comes with a sense of joy and gratitude. a deep appreciation for life.
So we're embracing the full spectrum of human experience.
Yes. The light and the shadow, the joy and the sorrow, and finding a way to hold it all with love and compassion.
And that includes being kind to ourselves.
Absolutely. Forgiving ourselves for our mistakes and celebrating our successes no matter how small, cultivating self-compassion.
This is sounding like a recipe for a good life, not just a creative one.
That's a great point, because I think that's what Pieper is getting at. It's not just about creativity. It's about cultivating a way of being in the world that allows us to experience more joy, love, and connection. It's about embracing all of who we are.
So maybe the path to divine madness is also the path to happiness.
Perhaps. That's the most mad idea of all, that embracing our flaws, our vulnerabilities, our madness might be the key to unlocking our greatest potential and living an extraordinary life.
Yeah. It really is a radical idea, isn't it? Like the things we try to hide or, push down could actually be the key to a more, meaningful life.
Yeah.
I don't know. It really changes how we think about success and what it means to be human.
Absolutely. It's a real shift in perspective. And I think it's important to remember that Pieper's not saying we should just abandon reason and logic.
Right.
He's not saying throw it all out and just embrace chaos. It's more about finding that balance between order and chaos.
Right. So that kind of dance between the Apollonian and the Dionysian like we talked about before.
Exactly. Finding that sweet spot where reason and intuition, discipline and inspiration can work together.
So both are important in the creative process.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. It's not just those moments of inspiration, It takes discipline and hard work to bring those ideas to life.
So you need both the inspiration and the dedication to actually, create something.
Exactly. It's about channeling that inspiration into something tangible, something you can share with the world.
And maybe that tension between the rational and the intuitive is what really drives creativity.
That's a really interesting thought. Like maybe the best ideas come from that friction, that push and pull.
Yeah. It makes me think about how these ideas apply to other areas of life, too, not just art. Like what about love or relationships or even our careers?
Oh, I love that. Because I think Pieper would say that those are the areas where we try to control things the most, where we hold on tight to our plans and expectations.
And maybe that's where we need to let go a little bit.
Yeah, embrace a little bit of that divine madness.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we're so afraid of making a mistake or, veering off course.
Exactly. And we end up stifling our own creativity, our own growth.
We're so focused on the destination that we forget to enjoy the journey.
That's a great way to put it. And I think that's where Pieper's emphasis on connecting to something bigger comes in. When we have that sense of purpose, that sense of belonging, it gives us the courage to let go of control, to embrace the unknown.
To trust that we'll end up where we need to be.
Yes, exactly. Like surrendering to the flow of life.
Right. Letting the current carry us.
Trusting that even if we can't see the shore, we'll get there eventually.
And remembering to be open to the wonder of it all.
Absolutely. Pieper talks about approaching life with that childlike curiosity, that sense of awe and amazement. And when we do that, we open ourselves up to new possibilities, to these unexpected connections.
Yeah, like the universe is conspiring to help us.
Exactly. Leading us down paths we might never have found on our own.
But that takes a lot of trust, right?
It does. It takes a willingness to surrender to the unknown, which can be scary.
Because there are risks involved.
Absolutely. Pieper acknowledges that embracing divine madness isn't always easy or comfortable.
Right.
It makes us vulnerable when we let go of control, when we step outside our comfort zones.
So how do we balance that?
Yeah.
How do we embrace the unknown, but also, protect ourselves?
It's about discernment, I think. Listening to our intuition, paying attention to what our bodies and minds are telling us.
Right, like developing that inner compass.
Exactly. That can guide us through the ups and downs and help us figure out which risks are worth taking.
So it's not about being reckless. It's about being mindful.
Yes. It's about making choices that align with our values and our deepest desires.
So we're developing a relationship with our own madness, in a way.
I like that. Yeah. Understanding its strengths and its limitations and learning to use it in a positive way.
It's definitely a journey.
It is a lifelong process of exploration and discovery.
And that's what makes it so exciting.
Exactly. Pieper's work is an invitation to embrace that journey, to see the potential for growth in every experience, even the tough ones, even the ones that might seem mad.
We're all works in progress, right?
Absolutely. Perfection is an illusion. It's in those imperfections, in those moments of vulnerability and madness, that our true beauty comes through.
So maybe embracing our madness isn't about becoming someone else.
It's about becoming more ourselves.
Right? It's about honoring all of our experiences and creating a life that's truly authentic.
That's beautifully said. It's a beautiful vision. And it really is inspiring.
It makes me want to embrace a little divine madness myself.
As it should, because Pieper's work is a celebration of the human spirit with all its messiness and unpredictability and its divine madness.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Josef Pieper's enthusiasm and divine madness.
It's been a great conversation.
Full of so many interesting ideas.
Hopefully it's giving you some new things to think about. The connection between creativity and madness and finding a fulfilling life.
If you want to explore these ideas more, definitely check out Pieper's book. You might just find a little divine madness in there yourself.
Until next time, may your journey be filled with creativity and curiosity and a little bit of that beautiful transformative madness.
And remember Pieper's words, the greatest blessings often come by way of mania, insofar as mania is heaven sent. So go out there and embrace your own divine madness.